Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Friends. And tonight I am really, really thrilled to introduce you to, but you already probably know her if you are already a BK or practice something to do with Raja Yoga. But she's known actually in places all over because of the work that she's been doing, Sister Gayatri. And tonight, what we're going to be talking about is a very special program that's not only happening in New York, although Gayatri and I will be there for that. It happens all over the world, and it's been happening for over almost 30 years. And it's called the Call of the Time Dialogues. And people, leaders, community leaders, leaders of all sorts, not necessarily political leaders, though it could be, have a political leader, just all kinds of leaders. They come together and they think deeply about what it is inside that they can do to help create positive change in the world. And as they do that, change happens within, or actually it's first, right? The change goes within, and then change starts to happen around you. And Gayatri's been involved with this program for, I think, since the beginning, which is about almost 30 years. I just want to say a few things about Gayatri, who's a leader in so many ways. She's been the Brahma Kumaris representative to the United Nations in New York since, get this, 1980. And she has written many books, and I'm going to just read a few of them, including Visions of a Better World, Something Beyond Greatness, Conversations with a Man of Science and a Woman of God, and The Story of Immortality, A Return to Self-Sovereignty. That's really impressive and beyond impressive, because if you ever get to see these books, you'll know how powerful they are, empowering and inspirational. So Gayatri, I am delighted to be here with you. We've been together over many years, but I don't know that I ever interviewed you. So welcome to Conversations with Friends.
Thank you, Meredith, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. And yes, I don't think you've interviewed me before, but I am excited for you to be in conversation with you, particularly at this particular time of what's occurring in our world, and to be talking about the call of the time, because I think that for many people, they must be asking themselves this question: what is the call of the time for me? So timely conversations, isn't it?
It's what I love about it is that there's this getting together of everybody. It isn't just coming to listen to some lectures. It's about coming together and, of course, meditating, reflecting, doing all kinds of things like that, walking in the woods, and going within to really just inside grow and let something happen. And a lot of times I've been there over the last few years and I think, well, I don't feel anything. Nothing's happening yet. I haven't had any big realizations, or I haven't had it. And I promise, right? By the end, I know from my own experience, something happens, doesn't it? What is it that makes this so successful, this program, which has gone on for so long?
Well, I think maybe I begin at the beginning, seeing that you have dated me so nicely. I was there at the foundation of the Call of the Time. And I was also with the United Nations since 1980. So being at the United Nations, I felt that the people there were, some of them, not all, were looking for something deeper than just the surface of looking at the state of the world and responding to solutions. And it became, I think, for some of them, a little bit of a deeper seeking. So I want to mention her because without her, Call of the Time was not going to be possible or have the depth that it carries. And it is Daddy Janki. Now, Daddy Janki was the spiritual head of the Brahma Kumaris. And of course, she left us when she was 104 years old. And she actually is the heart and soul of the Call of the Time series, which consists not only of dialogues, but also of retreats and experiments in silence. And it was in 1998, during one of her trips to New York City, that she called a small group of people that she considered to be her friends. And these were friends from the UN, from the World Bank, from MIT, and some other places. And she asked them the question, how can I be of help to you? And of course, they went into deep and meaningful conversations, and they were talking to her about the state of the world. But what they were most interested in was the BK's practice and the experiments they did in silence. And so they moved her into a conversation, and she was very readily, she was there with them. And so they moved into a subtle realm of a conversation on transformation. And the inquiry that occurred was on this question that what was the quality of transformation that the world needs, and it only occurs in the domain of silence. And I think this was the call that Dadi responded to. She was inspired by this question of transformation in the domain of silence. And then she prompted us to consider convening dialogue so that she could bring together her friends. But then in looking at the profile of her friends, she was saying, because you say, you know Daddy Janki very well, Meredith. So she had friends across generations. So if she were still here in the body, if she was still alive, she would have had friends from her own age all the way to the Alpha generation. Everyone, she would have found, friends there. So she decided that we should do something for her friends. And we should convene these dialogues for her friends. And so the first one took place in the Oxford, UK, at the Global Retreat Center. And then at the conclusion of that first dialogue, of course, Zadie called her friends together and she was chit-chatting with them. And then she said to them, the next time we meet, I want you to focus on time. And that's where the phrase was coined, the call of the time. That's where it took its birth. Out of the mouth of Daddy Janki came the word time. And then the co-facilitators of the dialogue, Peter Senge and Sister Jayanti, they, along with us, the team, we kind of looked at not just the theme for the dialogue, the call of the time, but what would the process, etc., be? So you could see that, to answer your question, the actual spine of the call of the time dialogues is really about an inner transformation that occurs. And that is why when people come in, they start with the outer platform of what's going on in the world. But before you know it, and this would have been your experience, they kind of move within and start looking at the robust response that can only come from a solid, strong kind of stage, as we call it, or a state of awareness, an attitude that is within us. And until that gets transformed, our responses may be robust, but it wouldn't carry the strength of true transformation.
Wow. So you're saying, and this is the whole point of such dialogues, is that people in the world say they want to do something good, they want to help the community, they want to help the world, but they're not necessarily going within. And that going within, that silence, that whatever you want to call it, for some people they might not call it meditation, reflection, going within, is really the way for this transformation to happen, right? It can't happen with just word talking. It's not enough.
Yes, but I wouldn't say that people are not looking within. I think that many people, the ones that are attracted to the call of the time dialogue, even for the first time, they have their personal practice. They have recognized that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes they just need a reminder, they need a reaffirmation, they need a reinforcement that, look, don't burn yourself out trying to fix the world because the systems are broken. We know that. I mean, you could say it with confidence now, the systems are broken because we see them. But you have to go back to fix an outer system. You have to fix the inner system. And that inner system is the self, is go back to the authentic self. What's the purpose of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
What was I born to be, and how was I born to serve? And I think that these are things people were already looking at within their own personal lives. So that is why the ones that were attracted to Call of the Time were ones with already a personal practice, a values-based practice or a spiritual practice. And they were drawing on that inner strength to do the work. But what was significant was Daddy Janki in 1999 invited a group of people to come with her to India. And she wanted them to be in this space of our headquarters because she felt for inner transformation to occur, it just doesn't occur outside of spaces. You need spaces as well that would be supportive to your inner transformation. So she decided to call together this group and take them all the way to Mount Abu. And then she said to him, she said to the group, I want to make it very clear to you about the intentions and feelings that I'm inviting you with. She says at that time, of course, it was in the 90s, we were getting to the year 2000, and she said to them, look, what you're seeing in the world is something that's going to get worse. She says the time is even more fearsome than even in the past, like in the 40s. And then she says that if you were to think about conditions in the 40s, and you were to look at conditions at that time, and I would say, let's look at the conditions now, the conditions are the same, but they're only amplified. They're amplified in a bigger way. And of course, we have lots of things that we didn't have then that would destroy the world within seconds. So then she's saying, look, you have to look at the method to transform the world. She was calling them into a conversation to look at a method of transformation that was occurring within this system of life, as she would call the soul. And then she says, she told them a few things. She says, one, we have to look at the power of silence. And we have to look at the power of silence as a space that is generative, not a punishing space, not a space in which you lose your voice, not a space in which you don't speak up, but it's a space that's generative because it's a space of connecting you to your authentic self, and it's connecting you to the source of the strength that is required. And she says that if you enter this inner space, and I'm taking you to a sacred space that support that inner space. So the outer space and the inner space were harmonized, were complementary. And then she says, I want you to do some inner work on yourselves when you're in that space, but always look at the inner work that you're doing and look at the impact it will have in the work that you're doing for others in the world. And her key statement was, I'm taking you there because there's a spiritual bankruptcy that exists. And I want us to move out of this spiritual bankruptcy, she was saying. And so she made it very, very clear as to what was the purpose of the Call of the Time. And she was inviting people into an inner space so that wherever they work, wherever they live, they will also create outer spaces that were supportive to their inner transformation. So she wasn't calling them to get on their yoga mats and to sit in isolation of work and family and world, but she was calling them to generate an internal strength that would become the practical proof of how the power of spirituality works as a reality in the world that we live in.
Beautifully said, as you always are. You always have so much wisdom and understanding, to share. I have seen people come to some of these events, and again, we'll be together this weekend at the Call of the Time, which is going to be at Peace Village. And then how many years ago we didn't have Peace Village, right? Or I think maybe just, when was the anniversary of Peace Village? I forget. It's at least 20, 25 more,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
something like
No,
that.
I think it's in 2024.
So yeah. So it's a wonderful space, isn't it, for people to come and have this kind of experience. It can't happen in a lot of places that are just not don't have that kind of energy and that kind of spirituality. So many people come, and they're coming to a place that's run by the Brahma Kumaris, and they come and they don't really even know who the Brahma Kumaris are a lot of times. I experienced that, with some of the people that I brought in the past. Who are these people? What do these people do? And it's very touching because they come with questions and they leave with total love and acceptance. Have you found that over and over again, where just the place itself is magical? Peace Village.
Well, Peace Village is up in the Catskills, and
Yeah.
it's in the valley of the Catskill Mountains. So Peace Village, by its very nature, is a healing space. You take the people out of Peace Village, or the location of Peace Village, which is the valley of the Catskill Mountains, and the actual place is healing because it's a lot of greenery, it's the mountains, it's all so beautiful there. I mean, it's rustic, but it's very beautiful.
Simple but beautiful, isn't it?
It's simple and beautiful. But what I feel is that one is, of course, it's run by the Brahma Kumaris, and we are very, very aware of vibrations. So as much as possible, we look at our state of awareness, we look at our quality of thoughts, we look at the quality of our feelings, our lifestyle, all of that, our relationships with one another, our relationship with nature. But all of that builds what is called an environment as well. But I would say that Peace Village is also a place that brings out the best in people. So you say they would come and they would have their questions. But I think that no matter how their questions may have been troubling to them, the questions are not suppressed. What happens to them is that the questions are answered in ways that are not just verbal, someone sitting them down and saying, well, here's the answer to your question. But the answers emerge just from the way they interact and live. I mean, some of them are even invited into the kitchen to come and help, and we call it yoga. And sometimes they leave saying that was the best thing that has ever happened, because there was a heaviness when they entered, but just by being invited into the hearth of the Brahma Kumaris, which is the kitchen, they found that really helped to heal something within them, and they were living with a lightness. So I would say Peace Village is lucky because people come every week for retreats, but what they leave behind is a beautiful gift, and that is the gift of their best selves. And so the people's best selves collectively add to the environment of Peace Village, and that is what makes it even double magical. So I say, if you were to ask me to describe the magic of Peace Village, I would say it's Bambi's land, but without the hunters. So it's a
Beautiful.
free space.
Beautiful. It really is. Well, there's some bears that I know, but hopefully nobody will.
Well, in Bambi's land.
Okay, they're nice bears, little bears.
But there's skunks, they're all, it's a biodiversity of life at Peace Village. So everybody's living there. But I think the animals live in great harmony. It's when the hunters, the human beings come in.
Yeah. We need to bring hunters in maybe to some of these events where they can begin to realize, maybe they need to change. But we're not. What I love about the Brahma Kumaris and the call of the time and anything that the Brahma Kumaris do, is nobody's trying to convert you. Nobody's trying to force you, to believe these are our teachings and you have to believe it. It's like you just share it. And when you share it, and I want you to say something about our two leaders that are with us for this event. We're very lucky, right, to have Sister Genti and Mohini Didi. Sister Genty, is she a Dee Dee? I mean, she is, but she's not called a Dee Dee, right? She's Sister Genty still, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Didi is a senior sister,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And in India, they say Didi, Didi, Didi.
Mhm.
And so Sister Mohini went over to India and she stayed an extended period of time. And that was when she was appointed the additional administrative head a few years ago. And Sister Jayanti was the second additional administrative head. So everyone started calling her Didi in India, meaning senior sister. It's not a title, it's just a term of seniority that one gives to a senior sister. So she came back and then everyone started calling her Didi. But Sister Jayanti, I think because of her stature being so tiny, she remained Sister Jayanti.
Some things change and some things don't change, and that's fine. That's perfect. To have them both, and what I have seen in the past with them, because they were with us before, is they come and they listen. They don't just kind of come in, give some talk, and walk out. They spend a lot of time with us, as you did too. You're there, you're part of it. And do you think that really has some amazing effect on everybody to just see them in the room and listening and kind of not experiencing, but seeing what people are thinking and what people are saying? A lot goes on in the room. It's like,
I know, yeah. And I always say that I use this term for Brahma Kumaris leadership, and that is drying your hair in the sun, which means they make themselves accessible. They don't have an office. They sit behind a desk and make an appointment.
mm,
And someone comes in or a couch and put them
mm,
on that couch and talk to them. But they're like outside in the environment, in the courtyard, sitting with their hair open and drying their hair in the sun. One of our uh, spiritual leaders used to do that. And then the whole of the Brahma Kumaris family would come around her from the different departments, and then she would talk to them. So I think it's this kind of leadership. And I think what they do that I find very helpful, and that's why I really don't like the word leadership for someone spiritual, because they're not actually leading anything. What they're doing is making themselves accessible so that and available to others so that they could listen with compassion and care to what the others is saying, so that the other person feels seen and they feel heard. And being seen and being heard equals love. They feel that they're loved by this person, but they equally look at them with love. And we call that divine drishti, or the gaze of love. And that love from their eyes touch the souls very deeply. But what's coming from their eyes to the soul is it's as though they're hugging them, embracing them with their good wishes and pure feelings from their hearts. And I think this creates a beauty, I call it the beauty of belonging, but also it creates an equality, a spiritual equality, because when they do that, the person feels a sense of equality. But where is that equality coming from? And it's a practice we have, and we have to be very aware of this practice. And that is when you look at another, you're actually seeing them equal in your eyes. So Sister Jayanti and Didi Mohini would look at them with a vision of equality. And what they're seeing is that this soul is my brother or sister, and we're all children of one God. So what happens when they do this? It's that this equality allows for an exchange between the two at all levels, at the level of thoughts, at the level of feelings, at the level of vibrations, at the level of intellect, at the level of heart. Because the space that gets created between the two is a space of trust and acceptance. And this space of trust and acceptance then gives the other a freedom, a fundamental freedom to express what is most profound and essential to them. So they don't hold back, they just open up But it's just that it wasn't that Sister Mohini and Sister Jayanti were making efforts to get them to open up. They just did something very simple and very spiritual, as you would say, Meredith. You love that word spiritual. And that is a vision of love. That is to listen and see with acceptance, with trust, with care, and to create this space accordingly. And this is called a space of trust. And then the
Interesting.
person becomes free.
Free and change happens. I remember years ago trying to do a documentary when I worked for PBS on abused women, and there was this place that they went where they got to be together for a few weeks or months even, I think, and go through a whole process together, and they called it like a safe space, and that's how the women transformed. Many of them would go back to their husbands afterward or whoever their significant others, and they never changed. But this process was the safe space where they could be together and share and go through. So I'm thinking that this, in a way, is what this is like, this experience, the call of the time, and other Brahma Kumaris programs. It's a safe space, and you can feel loved, you can feel special. You don't feel like you're damaged goods or something, right? It's like I wanted to show some pictures from last year so people could get the feeling of it. And we have some of last year's photos. Some of these people can't share everything, but there we have Gayatri, and we have a Miami person that came for her first time last year, Ari
That's
Urban.
right. And you have Kyoko, the harpist,
the harpist, the
from
beautiful harpist.
San Francisco. And then you have Jim
Roberta.
and Roberta. Yeah.
Yeah, Roberta and Jim have been coming every single year. I think they're going to the silence retreat, which comes after.
No, they're coming to this. And
Oh, they
actually
are?
they're bringing their kids as well. So it's one happy family coming.
Oh, didn't know that. I thought they were coming to silence. So they'll be there this time. Fabulous. Our leaders for the weekend. Beautiful centerpiece there in the room.
Yes.
It's created by Jackie Kambata,
Jackie.
an artist and creative.
And Jackie and Julia are there right now as we speak, creating the space for us.
And I love, there are people from different countries there, from different kinds of work that they do. And when you meet people, you really get to meet people and talk to them. There's Judy Rogers, of course, and Sister Gayatri. And again, a couple of the leaders with the Brahma Kumaris in different ways, as you are, Gayatri. Always doing amazing things. I just want to share something is that you probably don't even remember, but my very first trip to India was for Global Cooperation for a Better World. That was in 1989, right? And I'd never gone to anything. And you were there kind of holding my hand, not knowing what to expect, and kind of taking me to the dining room and telling me about the food, though I was already a vegetarian when you had to be. No, I don't know that you did, because there were people from the outside that were, they came in as guests. But that was for me a real wake up experience, to be there with leaders from around the world, and seeing how they became so just honest and open, and how they transformed from the beginning when I met them at the beginning of the week to the end. And it was kind of similar to this, but this takes you even to a deeper place, doesn't it? Because this really is a program, it's designed to move people forward in just a few days.
That's right. And, the thing is that silence is pivotal to transformation. So it's pivotal to the call of the time dialogue. So, we have the dialogues is so designed in which you have for the dialogue itself, one almost full day of silence. And that is important because remember, people are coming in from a lot of work that they have in their souls. It's sitting there, files of their work that they have been doing, all their projects, all the things that are working, all the things that are not working. And they're so full of the world that to be in silence, it's like a transitional period. Okay, they have talked for the first day or so and a half. Now it's transition time. So go into the silence. So this transition is taking them away from the world of sound into a world of inner silence, which is generative silence. And then in this space of silence, a lot of things happen. But yet, what we're saying to them in your silence, keep connecting. Don't disconnect, because it's a silence that connects. It's not a silence that disconnects. And so we would say, oh, keep looking at the other with that gentle gaze. Keep smiling with the other, nod at the other. If you have to speak, you have to speak. Because what we feel is that they're still connecting. So I might be in silence as an individual, but here's a community in silence together. So we are together in silence. And we are going deeper. So we feel safe to go deeper into ourselves. And the thing is, for me, is that you could hear a lot of teachings from people. And as you said, you're looking forward to the morning sessions, which I usually do. So I give a few kind of simple teachings on how we practice meditation, but they just hear that, right? But when they go into silence, what happens? They connect to what I have said in their unique ways. So it's as if they're embracing what they heard, and they're doing so like in an inner state of grace, as though what they've heard in this inner state of grace, it's like, oh, I'm remembering my birthright. And the birthright is an experience of reconnecting to the ancient wisdom that exists already in me. So I'm remembering it.
Mm.
And I remember truth. So I don't have to prove it. Truth is something that I remember after I've taken what I've heard into silence, and it touches that original wisdom within me. So I always say to people, before going into the silence is extremely natural to the soul. We have used it in a wrong way. And so people fear silence to a certain extent, but it's actually part of our spiritual genetics, right? It is a matter of recognizing that silence, the inner generative silence, the silence that the soul goes into, that sweet spot, we call it, it's a beautiful Hindi word, ekant priya. It's a space, a solitude that is so loving, so sweet. Other people call it your sweet spot, your inner sweet spot. And
Mhm.
that's the source of our strength, of our support, of our clarity of purpose, of where we get the conviction to continue doing what we need to do and to let go of the things we don't need. But it's just cluttering our inner space. So I feel that the silence in the Call of the Time dialogue is the transformative space, but it is done in a way that the individual is totally engaged with their own transformation. Transformation isn't something someone else can do for you. It is something you realize, and it is something you recognize, and it's something you remember. You just keep remembering your authentic self. You just keep remembering what you need to do when, and do it at the time you need to do it. Don't procrastinate.
So interesting that you're saying that, because again, I mean, I think that most people are waiting for change, not trying to change. Though some people are changing today, but oh, when the government changes or when the world changes, and then, or when my husband changes or wife, or, then I'll change.
Mm,
And it's all part of the Brahma Kumaris teachings, and this program is that as I change, the
mm.
world will change. So it's,
Yeah, and we say that it is change by choice, not change by compulsion. So if
mhm.
you're waiting for someone else to change, that's a sort of compulsion.
Yeah.
But if I change by my choice, I choose to change, then I'm in control, no? Of what it is I need to change. I'm not just jumping on a bandwagon of change.
All of this is just so beautiful. I mean, it's just so inspiring. And people might be feeling, well, how can I get to go to one of these? Well, I think there's lots of programs at Peace Village, not necessarily Call of the Time, but programs where you can go and change, even in one weekend, right? In one weekend. Or programs at centers. We have centers. How many centers do we have all over the world? Lots and lots and lots, right? Grown tremendously. So just to start, with something like this can connect you to the Call of the Time dialogues, even though it's not exactly the same thing. But my feeling is, and we've gone way over time. I told you it would just be 15 minutes, I think. What did I do? I think now you're going to think I don't tell the truth because I couldn't stop because you're so good. There's so much to share. I think that people, there's a lot of suffering. We know all this, but yet a lot of people are changing now, aren't they? And they want change. So now is the time, right? Call of the time for all of us. So, Gayatri, I thank you so much for saying yes to coming on. I know how busy you are. This is a thrill to get to be here to interview you. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. And I would just leave with the question we ask at every single dialogue to every participant. What is time calling me to be? And what is time calling me to do?
That is so powerful, and that's a wonderful way to end this amazing, inspiring conversation with you. I thank you. Thank you.